We are back in the 207 kitchen at O Main Studios. Allison Hill is with us today. She is the author of the cookbook, Feeding Family, Feeding America. Every penny in the proceeds from that book goes to the organization Feeding America, which helps hungry people all across the country. Great to have you with us. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to be here.
What are you going to make for us today?
So we are going to make, every recipe in the book is a family recipe of ours. And the one that I wanted to highlight is Noni's Parmesan and Asiago Dip, because when my mom brings this out, everybody goes crazy.
All right.
So the first thing we're going to do is put in here we go. 2 teaspoons of garlic. So I'm just going to pulse this real quick. And this is so easy. Everything in this book is meant to be easy and foolproof.
The idea is to do all of these dishes with your kids, right? It's not you working alone in the kitchen or someone else working alone in the kitchen. Get everybody involved. Exactly.
So now we have Asiago and Parmesan dip, and we do a half a cup of each, cut into these little blocks.
Okay.
The secret ingredient is the red chili flakes. This is what really amps it up, the peppery flavor.
Gives it some zing.
Yeah, and brings out the nuttiness.
Okay.
2 teaspoons of oregano. And some green onion, 2 tablespoons, and I think you have the recipes out on the website.
Yeah, the recipe, as always, will be on the website and on the app.
So now we're gonna mix this up, you can hear me, until we get into these little tiny chunks.
Okay.
And then sometimes your cheese can be drier or wetter than others. So the recipe calls for 1.5 cups, but we'll try it with just 1 cup to start.
Even that's a pretty substantial amount of olive oil.
It is, but wait till you see what happens.
Okay.
It's magic. It's like liquid gold.
I always trust grandmothers in the kitchen.
And so my mom, I think this is it. My mom invented this. She went to an Italian restaurant and they had this like crusty bread and dipping sauce. So we're gonna use the whole thing. So, and then she came home and tried to recreate, and it ended up into this dip, which is delicious.
I always like doing that, trying to do that reverse engineering where you have a great dish at a restaurant and then you come home and say, all right, how did they do that? Do a little detective work.
Yeah, and then crack a little black pepper in there. And then the best thing about this dip too is that you can freeze it. So a lot of things you can't freeze, which makes it great for saving. You can make a big batch. But the other thing that we like to do is put it on other recipes as well. Like you can put a spoonful into your salad, or you can use it as a sandwich spread.
Okay,
so this is it. Are you gonna try it?
I'll have a little bite. And if you're entertaining, this is nice because you can make it in advance. And
you can make it in advance, and like I said, you can freeze it. So I always do that, a double batch. Yeah, and so because this is such a like peppery kind of, like that has that kind of note. The cocktail that I like to serve, of course, everyone can have their own cocktail, but there's nothing like an Ogunquit Punch. So,
and what's in an Ogunquit Punch, he asked?
So it's pineapple juice, orange juice, your favorite flavored sparkling water, a little bit of cherry juice or grenadine if you have that. And then of course, depending on how loud your kids are, you can either do 1/2 cup of dark rum and 1/2 cup of light, or you could double that.
I was wondering where you were going with that. That's the first time I think we've ever had a recipe where it depended on how loud the kids are, but it makes perfect sense.
Yes. Quarantine was a long process, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then the magic ingredient for this, so we're gonna garnish with a little orange, but the magic thing that brings these flavors really together is nutmeg. So you can buy fresh nutmeg, it looks like this, like in your spice area. And then you just grate it right on top.
Yeah, that's always a nice touch.
Yeah.
That not only makes the drink taste better, but it also gives it a nice visual appeal too.
So here's your rum punch.
Cheers. Darn good. Cheers. The recipe for both the dip and the punch, of course, can be found on our newscentermaine.com website and app. Just go to the 207 section, and you'll also find more about Allison Hill's cookbook, Feeding Family, Feeding America. Again, all proceeds from that cookbook go to the nonprofit Feeding America, which helps hungry people all across the country.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Cheers.
Stay with us. Back with more of 207 right after this.